Hi everyone, I'm Michael Sweeney. If you're watching this video, you're probably about to take an exam and you're probably pretty anxious about it. I'm an expert in the understanding of anxiety. I'm a clinical psychologist and associate professor at the Department of Academic Child Psychiatry at UCD. What I'd like to do is I'd like to teach you how to manage your anxiety around exams. Break up your anxiety management into three parts: what you're supposed to do before the test, what you're supposed to do during the test, and what to do afterwards. Before. Most anxiety management is preparation. Lots of people ask us, what should I do when I get nervous in the test? That's a fine question, but it's not the best question. The better question is, what are the things I should do before the exam so that I'm not so nervous? Managing how you're going to feel tomorrow starts today. Emotions management is a preparation business. So, when you have an exam coming, please think of two things. You have two separate boxes. One is that you have to prepare for the test itself, whatever the contents of the test is. And the other is that you have to prepare for the anxiety. Some people make the mistaken thought that if I just super duper duper prepare for the exam, my anxiety will lessen because of the reassurance that I'm so prepared. It sounds reasonable. It doesn't work that well. Please, if you have an exam, think that you have two tasks. One is to prepare for the test, and you need a separate, distinct plan to prepare for the anxiety. So, preparing for the test. Okay, look, when you're preparing for an exam, the more sensory modalities you use, the better. Many people rely upon the repeated reading of material. I have all these notes and I'm going to read them over and over again, and I'll learn them by rote. Not the best system. Here's all the different ways that you can get information into your head. You can read the material, you can hear it, you can talk to somebody else about it, and you can work with it. The more interaction you have with the material, the more likely it is to stick in memory. Things seen are easily forgotten. Things that you summarize are not as easily forgotten. If I was to read a chapter about something in history, I'd kind of remember it. If I was to read it and make some notes, I'd remember it a lot better. If I was to read it and try to write out what I thought an essay answer would be, I would remember it even better still. If I then had a conversation with one of my classmates, someone else who was taking the test, about the notes and the things I'd learned, I'd remember it still better. Notice what the difference is. More sensory modalities. I'm seeing it, I'm hearing it, and I'm working with it. And especially the working with it part. If you're trying to get information to stick in your head, you have to do more with it. That's the preparing for the test part of it. Now, let me speak about what the biggest part of this talk is about, which is, how do I manage my anxiety such that I perform as well as I can? The idea here isn't, oh, you shouldn't care, and exams don't matter, and grades don't matter, because of course that's silly. Exams do matter. How do you perform your best? To perform your best, you'd like a medium amount of anxiety. Just enough anxiety to get you a bit revved up, to get you concerned, to get you trying, but not so much anxiety as to cause you to procrastinate or blank out or have difficulty getting new things in. So, how do you get the sort of perfect amount, the middle amount of anxiety? Here's the 10 things you should do. Step 1, empathy. A little bit of kindness towards yourself goes a long way, right? I stink, I'm terrible, this is no good, I'm going to be lousy at this. All of those incredibly unkind sentiments. If that's your starting point for your attitude towards yourself, I stink and I'm going to stink at this. And I'm a fool to be worried about this, and I shouldn't be worried about. If you are saying a long list of mean things to yourself, you are starting on the wrong foot. No good journey has started with a lot of excessively harsh criticism, especially if it's baseless criticism. A little bit of kindness. I've been here before. I've taken lots of exams. I'm taking a lot of smart steps to be as prepared as I can be. You see how that self-talk sets a different emotional tone? It's not that the exam doesn't matter. It matters a lot. But I've been here before. I've done well on tests before. I'm going to put in a lot of the effort that's needed to do well. Those are empathic self-statements. You want self-statements like that. Look for them. That's your starting point. After self-statements, we're moving to expectations. Expectations may be the single biggest driver of emotion. If you'd like to be a good emotions manager, you want to be a good expectations manager. So this exam is going to be difficult. This exam will take a lot of time and a lot of studying and a lot of effort. How well I do on this exam is probably proportional to how well I study for it. I've taken lots of exams before, and I've been nervous before many exams. My nervous feeling has not been some perfect predictor of my anxiety, of my performance. Tomorrow's exam is not some brand new, incredible, never before done thing for me. I know a lot about taking tests, and I can take them very, very well. I've done them a lot of times. I can see them coming. The idea here is that the familiar is never as intimidating as the new. Exams as a student are really familiar to you. I'm going to feel this nervous. I'm going to have these emotions. I'm going to have, this feeling in the pit of my stomach. Expectations, the fact that it's coming, that I can see it coming, will help. Comparison. It's been said that comparison is the thief of joy. Be careful in comparing yourself to others. One of the ways that we particularly beat up ourselves in emotions management wise is we compare ourselves to someone else. I bet you so-and-so is far ahead of me. I bet you this other one over here is going to do far better than I will. As I sit at home, if all of my comparisons to others, these other children in the class are going to do much better than me. If all of my comparisons to others have me on the lesser side, the lower side, you can see how that's exactly the wrong type of influence on your self-esteem. If you start with a comparison, they're better and I'm worse, you're going to discourage yourself. You're going to make the task of doing well on the exam a harder task. The safest bet is to avoid comparisons. I'm going to do well on this test relative to me, and I'm going to do well on this test based on what I've done to prepare for it. 9 times out of 10, when you get into the comparison business, you drive yourself a little bit crazy. So if you notice yourself being a comparer, maybe you skip that. Perspective. Be very careful how you see the exam. As we've said a couple of times, the exams are important. You'd like to do well on them. Something hangs in the balance of these tests. But there's already enough pressure. You see, this exam is important. I'd like to do really well on it. It'd be great if I did well on this because it would mean this for my grade point average or my college. All of that is enough pressure. When you throw in sentences like, this is the most important thing ever, all of my future hinges in the balance of how I do on this exam, you see what you're doing. When your perspective is, this exam is make or break, everything matters, you're taking the anxiety knob and turning it up. Again, we want the anxiety knob turned to the middle, not turned to, I'm going to pull my hair out. So this is important. I'm treating it like it's important. That perspective to me seems to be like middle anxiety. This is the most important thing in the world, and my entire thing will be. That seems like super high anxiety. And remember, super high anxiety is the enemy to good performance. Guessing the future. Look, you should use your powers of expectation to calm yourself down. As we were saying a moment ago, this is not your first rodeo. You know how to do this. You've taken loads and loads of exams. If there's anything you're really proficient and familiar with, it's probably taking exams. What you want is to tell yourself things about what the experience is going to be like. Here's how I'm going to feel the night before the exam. Probably nervous, ill at ease. I know that feeling is coming. That feeling, however, is not evidence that I'm unprepared or that the exam is going to go poorly. That feeling is evidence that I have an exam tomorrow. Furthermore, I know how I'm going to feel the morning I wake up for the exam, probably an even more anxious feeling than the night before. But the same thing holds true. I know this feeling is coming, but because I can guess the future, I both know the feeling is coming and I know how to appropriately understand that feeling. It's an indication that I'm taking an exam. My anxiety is not an indication that it's going to go well. What some people do is they use their feelings as if they were a fact. Because I feel super duper scared, that must be a sign that something big and bad's going to happen. I'm good at guessing the future. I've taken lots of exams before. I have felt nervous before the majority of them. And even though I have felt nervous, they've gone fine. The familiar is easier and much less intimidating than the new. The exam that's coming up tomorrow is new in a way because I've never taken this exam before, but it's really familiar in another way. I've taken loads of exams. I know what the room will look like. I know who will be there. I know what the booklets or the forms that I'm going to fill out will look like. It's familiar. When you want to take the intimidating out of something new, think of all of the elements of the new thing that are super familiar to you. That's guessing the future. You should use that. Acknowledge the anxiety. What a lot of people do is they know that too much anxiety is a bad thing. So they try their hardest to sort of push it away and not acknowledge that it's there. That if only I shove this feeling to the side, it won't exist in the same way. And because it doesn't exist in the same way, it won't be as big a problem. That is, for better or worse, just not the way anxiety works. It's not really the way feelings work. If you take feelings and try your hardest not to acknowledge their existence, you sort of make them into a boogeyman and you make them feel stronger. It sets up the terrible notion that that feeling is stronger than me. If I acknowledge its existence, it would have like a bigger effect on me. It also has this idea that if I acknowledge the feeling, I don't know how to manage it. So I'm going to do the opposite of that, which is that I'm going to acknowledge the anxiety. I, Michael Sweeney, am taking a test tomorrow and I feel nervous about it today. I feel nervous about it today for all the smart reasons. It's a test I care about. It's an exam I'd like to do well on. I'm someone whose self-esteem is, tied into what my grades are. That's why I feel anxious, not because of some big mysterious thing. Some of the feelings I'm having, sweaty hands or upset stomach or the beginning of a headache, the tension in the back of my neck, that's not because anything's really going wrong with my stomach or my head or my neck. That's just what anxiety does. Anxiety speaks in two languages. One language is physical feelings, sweaty hands, headaches, shortness of breath. The other language that anxiety speaks in is your own internal monologue. I'll stink, this'll go bad, I won't be good enough. That's how anxiety communicates with you. When anxiety is communicating with you, it's really important that you acknowledge the anxiety and label it as anxiety. I'm not thinking that this is all going to turn out terrible because that's like the best and most accurate guess of what's going to happen. I think everything's going to turn out terrible because I'm a pretty good worrier. This is a pretty good thing to worry about. It's not the way it's really going to turn out. I'm just feeling that way because I'm a worrier. Acknowledge the worry so that you might manage the worry. Smart worrying time. The problem with worries is that they come into your head at all times. Sometimes it's a smart moment to worry, and sometimes it's not. I'm sitting here at my desk. I'm worried about the exam tomorrow. That's like kind of a smart time to worry about the exam because I'm actually like in a position to do something. Like I could learn the material a bit better. I could study the stuff a bit better. I'm walking home with my friends. That's probably not a smart time to worry. There's not a great thing I can do about it. I'm not in a position to study or to like advance my understanding of the material. I'm out walking around with my friends. That's probably a much smarter time to relax, enjoy, connect with other people. That you have to think about the exam. That try to corral your thinking about the exam to those occasions when you're able to actually do something that would make you better prepared for the exam. Think of your worrying time as having both smarter and less smart times to worry. If I can be productive, okay, let the worry act as a bit of motivation. If it's not a time where I can be productive, let me see what I can do to push these anxiety thoughts out of my head and be more present in whatever that thing is. Find your friends. So social support is a great anxiety management strategy. Part of what makes us anxious, as we've been saying, is I have this like internal dialogue with myself. I think this test is extraordinary. I think it's super important. I think it's going to mean everything. Find your friends. Ideally, find friends that serve two different purposes. One is friends who will let you know that we're all having a similar experience, that you're not alone in being worried, that all of us who are like extra conscientious and want to do well in the exam are having the same feeling. You are not crazy for feeling this way. It's kind of the way you're supposed to feel. That's social support. The other version of social support comes from this. As I sit with my friends, what I hope I notice is I'm about as prepared as they are. They've been conscientious and preparing for this and making notes and reading flashcards and creating flashcards and what have you. They've been doing things to get ready, and so have I. And as I sit with my friends and I realize they're about as worried as I am, that's a pretty good reality check. They've been preparing as much as me. It's nice to know I'm doing as much as everybody else. And a feeling shared is often a feeling halved, which is to say that when the two of you are together on something, at least you only have the worry and not the isolation that worry can sometimes bring. So these are all the things you're supposed to do in advance of the exam, right? A little bit of empathy. I'm going to get through this. A lot of preparation. I'm going to work with material as best I can to know it as well as I can. I'm going to be smart about how I talk to myself. I'm going to use my expectations. I'm going to rely upon social support. I'm going to be smart about when I work. In the week leading up to the exam, those are the things I'm going to do. I'm going to do those things in hopes of keeping myself at a medium on the anxiety scale. Medium seems a good place. It's just enough to keep you on task, but not so much that the whole thing becomes hard to do. All of those things I've just mentioned are the things you're supposed to do in advance That is where the greatest majority of your anxiety management for exams will be done. Good. That's the before part. The test day. Be prepared. You don't need a second prop, right? So have your materials together, have your clothes laid out, have all the things you can ready, right? Expect the anxiety, and you're reminding yourself that the extra anxiety you feel on exam day is not like some indication, as we've been saying, that something bad's going to happen. If I said to you, I have a test coming next week, how nervous am I going to be a week before? How nervous am I going to be the morning of? You would easily guess that I'd be more nervous the morning of. That's fine. The only place where that becomes a problem is when I mistakenly misinterpret my anxiety as some sort of smart predictor that I'm not going to do so great. Okay? Those are all the things you're doing up to the exam. That should be the most of it. If you do these things well, I'm about to describe what you're supposed to do during and what you're supposed to do after. If I had to pick, it's an easy pick. The things to do before, things I've just described, are far and away the most important. Right. So here's the during part. Right. During the exam, breathe. It sounds silly. Please breathe. Funny enough, it turns out that anxiety changes how we breathe. When you're extra nervous, you kind of breathe a little shorter and a little shallower. The combination of those two makes your body not feel so fantastic. And that not feeling so fantastic is a bad premise. I'm already sitting in an exam room. I don't need to add physical discomfort. The one or two big, long, deep, sustained breaths will get you there. Good. The second thing is you need to think of a true and encouraging thing to say to yourself, right? You need a mantra that you can say to yourself over and over again. You see, by example, if what you do when you're in the room is start saying to yourself some version of "Holy cow, this is terrible," that's a poison for you. What you need is true and encouraging. It has to meet both criteria, right? I have studied an awful lot for this exam. In the past, when I've studied a lot, I've done well. That's a mantra. I'm ready is a mantra. I've done the work to do well. That's a good mantra. This is a topic area where I've done well historically. That's a mantra. You need something like that. A short slogan that you can say to yourself that feels undeniably correct. It gives you a bit of a push to move forward. Now, the opposite of an encouraging mantra is a catastrophic thought. The catastrophic thoughts are the mood killer. I will absolutely fail this exam. There's no way in the world I'm going to do well. The rest of my life will be ruined by this. These are the sorts of catastrophic thoughts that you want to be extra smart about. If you were looking for emotions management poison, I would pick catastrophic thoughts. Be careful about them. You know yourself. Think of the sort of catastrophic things you typically say to yourself. You can tell things are catastrophic thoughts, by the way, because they are absolutist, right? My life will be over. This will never go well. Everything will go terrible. Anytime you get a lot of everythings and alls, that's a real powerhouse for catastrophic thoughts. Guard against them, right? This is one exam of many. I've prepared myself thoughtfully for this exam. You see how there's no catastrophe in this. Guard against catastrophic thought. You won't be confident in all of your answers, right? This is back to what we were saying as a before strategy, when we were saying, see the future, predict what's going to happen. One of the things that you can predict about yourself during the exam is that you won't be confident in all your answers. The reason it's important to think this is what happens to many is I start taking the exam, I run into an early question, the answer to which I'm not confident. And I then generalize from that. I'm doing terrible, this won't go well. How could I possibly do well, given I've already don't know something this early on? I won't be confident in all of my answers. That's not the end of the world. The big test, lots of questions. It's just a fluke that question number 3 wasn't something that I particularly knew. I won't be confident at all. Do what you know first. If you're in an exam and you're finding an item particularly challenging or particularly hard for you to understand, that if your confidence is lowering because of it, please move on. Do the next thing. Go back to this thing. Be careful not to let one item that you don't particularly know poison your confidence for all the future things. Do not look for cues from others. As I'm taking my exam, I look around the room. I notice that he has finished before me. I notice that she is writing a lot more than me. The problem you have when you're anxious is that as you look around for those sorts of cues, what you tend to do is just notice the cues that make you look a little bad. So this person is finished ahead of me. Maybe it's because they don't know what they're doing. This person is writing more than me. Maybe none of it is of any quality. When you're anxious, however, that comparison process tends to be unduly negative, where you only make comparisons that make you the step down person. Don't look for cues from others. You're there, play your game. Try not to care that this person's getting done quicker or this person's writing more or whatever the case might be. You're there for your game. Those are the things you're supposed to do during the exam. Show up with a bit of expectation. Boy, I'm going to feel nervous. Breathe to blow off some of the anxiety that you have. Repeat your mantra. This is going to go okay. Steer clear of catastrophic thoughts and steer clear of looking for cues from others. Those are the things that are going to get you through the exam. After the congratulations, you're done with the exam, right? I mean, this is part of what you wanted, was to be done with the exam. Now that you're done with the exam, do something to shake off the nerves. The anxiety is actually like a biological event in your body. It's a bunch of like anxiety and stress hormones that are released. After the exam, do something to shake off the nerves. Go out with friends, play a sport, go have a few laughs, whatever is your cup of tea to blow off some steam. Please, please, please go and do that. Once you've shaken off the nerves, please also do this favor for me. Look back with curiosity. The goal here is not just to get through tomorrow's test. I mean, that's great, and that's part of the goal, of course. The real super duper goal, though, is that you'd like to get good at taking exams. If you're in the middle of your academic career, say a high school student with college ahead of you, you've got a lot of exams ahead of you. I'm sorry to say, but you do. What you'd like to do is you'd like to get really smart at taking exams because you're going to have to take a lot of them. Please look back on this most recent exam with a bit of curiosity. What went well and what went poorly? Was my anxiety well-founded or was it excessive? What are the things I did that really seemed most helpful to my preparation? And what are the things I did that were just a squandering of time? I'm going to look back with curiosity and try to create my own sort of do's and don'ts list, both in terms of preparing for the exam academically and in preparing for my anxiety management with the exam. In summary, those are your steps. Divide your test anxiety management into before, during, and after. Spend 90% of your anxiety management energy in the before part. It's the place where you'll get the most return on investment. Be kind to yourself. Be thoughtful about how you talk to yourself. Use social support. Remember, you need two distinct plans. Plan A, how do I get all of this information into my head so that I might do well on the exam? And then a completely separate, independent plan B, how do I not freak out in advance of the exam? Treat them as separate, you're supposed to. During the exam, expect to be anxious, breathe and blow off some of the anxiety, say something really encouraging to yourself, try not to compare yourself to others. Whatever you do, try not to let the catastrophic thoughts get the better. Following the exam, congratulate yourself for getting through it, do something to blow off a bit of anxiety, and bring a real curiosity to, all right, what part of that worked well for me and what part of that didn't work well for me? And what am I going to do going forward? With those steps, you can turn your extra high test anxiety into like a medium test anxiety. Please remember these steps. Please try them in advance of your next exam. Please hold on to the strategies that work for you. And good luck in all your future tests. All right. Thank you for your time and your attention. I'll let you go. Be well. Bye.